Now we'll go to the offensive tackle class, which I think is one of the best positions overall in this entire draft, Dalton. Who are your top 5 tackles in this year's draft?
All right, so this one was a little more straightforward for me, especially the top 3. Joe Alt, number 1 from Notre Dame. He's the best tackle in the class. I think he's the safest pick in the entire draft. I would be beyond shocked if he got by Tennessee at 7. I think it would be the most shocking thing in the draft if he got past there. 2, I'm leaving Olu Fashanu at 2, man. Yep. I think he's kind of getting, I don't want to say slept on, but like it feels like the stock is moving down for not a whole lot of reason. He's got 3 years at Penn State of elite pass protection. I get that he's not the run blocker that maybe Fuaga or somebody, like a J.C. Latham is, but he's probably the best pure pass protector in this draft, and I think that's a premium that like every team should have on their board, right?
Isn't it so weird how like he's moving down for something that we've known for 2 years now? It's like we've known this.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and to be honest with you, like if I've got 2 offensive linemen who are even, then
you side the pass protector.
Like I think Fashanu and Fuaga are very, very tight, and I'm kind of taking Fashanu as the pass pro tiebreaker because that's more important. It just is, right? I'm going Talisi Fuaga 3rd because he is probably maybe the best pure run blocker, especially in the zone game in this class. I've told you before, I think like Pittsburgh with Arthur Smith would kill to have him. I think the Raiders make a lot of sense. I think he's very safe in the run block game, and he's just not quite the pass protector Fashanu is, but he's still really good. Troy Fautanu at 4 for me, kind of like Fashanu, but he did it at an elite level for 1 year instead of 3, but still an incredible pass protector, really athletic, tore up the combine, and played in an offense that was not like aided by RPOs and screens and all. Like that was a downfield vertical, like NFL pocket style with Penix behind him kind of offense. Fautanu and the pass pro floor for me is big time. And 5, I have J.C. Latham. Massive dude. I think in a gap scheme would work better. I think for a team like the Rams who are kind of transitioning to that, if they wanted a future right tackle, the Buffalo Bills, I think would be a team that thinks about him if he got that far down. But just tell me this: does he remind you a lot of kind of like Darnell Wright from last year?
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
there's some Darnell Wright in his game, and Latham may even be bigger than that. We know how big Alabama's offensive line was across the board, but I think Latham's just really, really solid. And if you want to add that get off the bus first guy, then it's J.C. Latham at 5.
No, I have a pretty similar top 5. Actually, one of the guys that you don't have. So we have a difference in one player in the top 5. But at number 1 and number 2 and 3 even is the same for me. And Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, and Talisa Fuaga. Alt, pretty clearly the number 1 tackle. I've had this take for 2+ years now when everyone was kind of on the Olu Fashanu over him train. I've always been a bigger fan of Joe Alt just because I think the run blocking and pass blocking is elite. Both of them. And then also, he tested out as the most athletic offensive tackle at the Combine, which personally I wasn't even expecting, but he was fantastic at the Combine too. So there really is no holes in his game, man. I think he's one of the safest prospects in this draft. I think he's, I wouldn't say he's a guarantee to be an all-pro, but I would be pretty surprised if he wasn't one of the best tackles in this league, or at least one of the top 10 tackles in this league. I think he's going to be a superstar in the NFL. So I would take him as the number 1 tackle pretty easily. And then 2 and 3 are similar in that Olu Fashanu has a trump card in his pass blocking. Fuaga has a trump card in his run blocking. Fuaga, I will say, is a better pass blocker than Fashanu is as a run blocker, but I think Fashanu is so elite as a pass blocker. His movement skills were so good. I would take him over Fuaga in that draft. And again, like I said, it almost makes no sense for me that something that we knew for Fashanu is all of a sudden dropping him significantly on draft boards. Just this isn't a brand new issue. This is something we've known for 2 years, and you're still projecting him in the top 10, and all of a sudden now you're like, oh, I care about this more now. And that makes no sense to me. So I still think maybe a little bit of smokescreen season with him. Maybe I think he will go higher in the draft than people think, and he should, honestly, because I still think he's a really good player. And if the Jets take him at 10, I would not hate that at all, honestly. At 4, I have J.C. Latham from Alabama. I've always loved his tape, man. I always thought he was a better pass blocker than people give him credit for. Really good run blocker as well, powerful player. I think he's maybe a right tackle only in the NFL, but I mean, we've constantly said this before again and again, is that right tackles are just as valuable, man. And Jason Latham is a really, really good one. And at 5, I have Amarius Mims from Georgia. I don't have Troy Fautanu actually in my my top 5, even though I liked him. I just like Mims, man. He, again, only 8 starts in his career, so he's battled injuries in the past, and obviously he sat for a little bit of his career at Georgia. But he is one of the most athletic tackles in this draft, one of the biggest freaks, I think, overall in this draft. And when he's been on the field, man, he's been really, really good as both a pass blocker and run blocker. And some of the metrics with Fautanu aren't as dominant as you would expect. I still think he's a great mover, but I'm a little bit lower on Fautanu than a lot of people right now, and I think he's going to be a top 15 pick, and I don't know if I would take him that high. So I would have Amarius Mims above him right now, but it's still, like I said, it's still a loaded tackle class, and there's still even some other guys we haven't mentioned that could be first-round picks at the tackle class in this draft. But who is the sleeper, Dalton, that you have in this offensive tackle group?
You know, some people like traits and big athleticism, and some people like really, really good football players. And this guy is in the latter. We talked about him all year. Give me Javon Foster out of Missouri, man. One of the best run blockers, especially zone blockers in the country. Solid pass protector. Missouri's O-line went from like outside the top 70 last year to inside the top 10 this year. Just a huge, huge unsung reason why they had the year they had. And he's not like the most athletic guy. He's not the tear up the combine guy. And, you know, maybe some people think he should play inside or what have you. But, Max, let me tell you something. I found only 3 Power 5 left tackles, okay, in the decade that we've had PFF college that played 500 snaps at left tackle for 3 consecutive years and graded at an 80-plus in all 3 years. Actually, 4, and I'll give you the previous 3. Ike Ekwonu, Andre Dillard, Peter Skoronski, and the 4th one's Javon Foster. So those first 3 guys were all first-round picks, and Foster is being looked at as like an unathletic, like 5th-round type guy. I disagree with that. I think if you get Javon Foster reasonably in the 4th, and even if you, quote-unquote, reached and took him in the 3rd, I would not hate it at all. Wicked experience at left tackle. I thought the Senior Bowl was a little unfair to him because they went right ahead and moved him to right tackle. And it's just, you know, some guys switching sides on short notice like that, like it's not advantageous to him, especially as a not elite athlete, but he's got a rugged style of play. And every year there's a handful of mid-round offensive linemen that are just solid, productive players. I don't think he'd be an all-pro by any means, but I think, like, let's say Pittsburgh doesn't go tackle in the first round. I think it'd be a great fit for him there. Or just like a zone team, especially because they ran a lot of that at Missouri, and some of it is about fit. It's always about fit, too. But I just think Javon Foster has produced too much good tape over the last 3 years, especially to not be considered, you know, higher than what he is right now. I feel like I just don't hear anything about him, you know, in like any national outlets at all.
Dude, we've had a few of positions where we had to decide who would get the sleeper, because he would have been my pick for the sleeper too. I actually want to shout out my old English teacher, Mr. Herring, Mr. Chris Herring at St. Joe's Metuchen, because he texted me and my brother his big board. He loves the NFL draft too, and he said, man, Javon Foster is one of the most slept on prospects in this draft. So he also knows Dalton, so shout out Mr. Herring, because he also knows Javon Foster is an elite player, and I agree with you, man. He would have been my pick for this as well, and honestly, he might be a day 2 pick for me in this NFL draft. I really like him. He wasn't a bad athlete. I want people to understand that. Like, you look at the relative athletic score, which I keep shouting out is a terrific tool to use when you're scouting these players. He scored as a 63rd percentile athlete for offensive tackle. That's above average still. It's not like he's a bad athlete. It's good enough. Exactly. And I think that's something that people don't really understand with him. 92nd percentile vertical jump. He had a 33-inch vertical, which is nuts for a tackle. And then also ran a 1.79 in the 10-yard split, which is good as well. And he has long arms, over 34.5-inch arms. I mean, I really like Javon Foster, man. And I think he's, like you said, he's really being slept on in this draft, especially with how good he's been. So because I couldn't get Javon Foster, I had to go with someone else. I actually, I know I just said I didn't like one of the Washington tackles in this draft, Troy Fautanu. Not as much. I shouldn't say that. I like him enough to be a first-round pick. I just don't like the hype that he's getting right now. I do like his right tackle, his running mate, and Roger Rosengarten a lot. And I think he deserves to be higher on people's boards than he's getting credit for. Excellent pass protector this past year, 77th percentile in terms of true pass sets, pass blocking. Wasn't a very good run blocker, I will say. He was better the year before. He earned a 76.5 run blocking grade in 2022. It was only 59.6 this past season, but he was a really, really good pass blocker for the blind side of Michael Penix Jr. this past season. So Roger Rosengarten, again, day 3 pick like Javon Foster for a lot of people right now, and I think he deserves to get a little bit more love than what he's getting right now.